Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Welcome, everyone, to the news segment for June 25th, 2021. We are recording out of order tonight as we have a guest coming in later in the evening, so we are going to start with the news. As always, we're going to go around, see what everyone is drinking. Dan, let's start with you.
Man, I bet you can't guess what it is, but I got that Stolian Seltzer going on.
Well, you can't give me the opportunity to guess and then not give me the opportunity to guess.
You're right. You didn't have to guess. You knew what it was.
That's true. What about you, Wendy? What do you got over there?
Well, I feel like in Rob's honor, I should have the triple mash going, but I am not going to chug it.
That's all right. You don't have to chug it. For myself, I've got some Two Roots, the Hellas. Of course, I got Blur going on right now, so you can't see it on the screen. And I also got me some White Claw, Black Cherry.
There you go.
Trying to go a little slow as I want to be well when it's time for the guests to come in. But with that in mind, as always with this segment...
Here is Robert with the Beer News.
Well, as you can see by the lack of Robert being on the screen, we're going to still be hosting the news portion of Better on Draft, going over some of the topics we found today. And there is the first one that I want to kind of go over, which is kind of a discussion on the industry as a whole and the world that was and is craft beer bars. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a craft beer bar is, imagine, if you will, a multifaceted bar that has taps upwards of, I've seen upwards to 150 taps in one restaurant itself. The big one that just closed recently, which was Falling Rock in Denver, they had 90 draft lines and an extensive list. If you actually look at Hopcat Detroit right now, they're only running roughly 33 lines right now. I know COVID just ended and they kind of just reopened, so I don't know if they have the beer for it itself. But obviously they're still only running that much. And with the influx of craft breweries that have allowed for more choices when you go to a brewery, and of opening a brew pub, let's not discredit places like Brown Iron Brewhouse over in Washington Township and Royal Oak, which brew their own beer but also have an extensive draft list and restaurant themselves. I want to know what your guys' feelings are on the potential the potential future of a craft beer bar as I turn off Blur, because this is really annoying.
I don't even know why you have that on.
I just updated Zoom. But Dan, what about you? You're the first one to respond about my Blur.
I mean, I don't think craft beer bars are going out of style. They're all over the place out here with 80, 90, 100 taps. I think if someone's going out of business, it's because they're doing business wrong or people just don't want to go there. I don't see anything fading as far as they go.
Now, you mentioned 80, 90, like high tap rooms. Around me, I can't think of any bar or restaurant that has that list right now in that isn't Brown Iron over in, that isn't Brown Iron, which they brew their own beer, so they're a destination already being a brew pub with food. But when was the last time you went to a craft beer bar?
6 days ago, last Saturday.
Last Saturday?
Yeah.
I mean, that's if you're going there and you're seeing them, that's obviously a good thing. But for me, I can't even tell you the last time I was inside and let's say a craft beer bar is more taps than Buffalo Wild Wings. I think that's a very fair, because they get into the craft beer game pretty well, especially locally. What about you, Wendy? When was the last time you went to a craft beer bar?
I think Buffalo Wild Wings would be the closest, and I don't think that their craft scene is all that great. I think they tried to be when they first started bringing in the craft beers, and they did really good at first, and now it's all back to AB InBev and Miller Coors products, and you get 2 or 3 locals.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't been to a Buffalo Wild Wings in probably 6 or 7 years, so I'll take your word for it, but continue.
So I just, I don't think that I don't really go to craft beer bars because I try to hit the breweries when I can. I don't get a whole lot of free time to go out and do that stuff. So I try to hit as many new breweries instead of going to the bars. I I think when I first started liking drinking beer, I thought they were awesome because you could go and try a whole bunch of different things. You know, we had the World of Beers over in Canton, and there's been a couple other ones that have come and gone, and some of them that are still here, I guess. But once it got to the point where I had been trying all of those beers, they have so many taps, they can't rotate them fast enough because they're not going through their kegs quick enough that I don't feel like I was getting a good variety anyways, and I'd rather just go to the brewery where I can get whatever they brewed that week.
I think we're seeing a lot of, World of Beer is obviously a large chain. Same with Hopcat. Maybe these larger chains like a Brass Taps might be having some issues. But when you're thinking locally, I think if you don't have a shtick to bring someone in, like Kalamazoo Beer Exchange, Detroit Beer Exchange, you can go to so many bars. Every bar you go to right now basically has a decent handful of lists, craft beers that you could try. I just went to, for the first time, I'm in Ypsilanti, the Ypsilanti Moose Lodge, and they had, on 8 taps, they had 6 craft beers. And it was crazy to see that kind of stuff at that type of place, because at that type of place you expect a little more blue collar. But Dan, you're the one that said you've seen these craft beer bars and you go to them. What makes you keep going to these bars?
The variety of beers that I can get. I mean, I can choose to go to a brewery that has 19 IPAs and maybe one stout on tap, or I can go to the place that's going to have more of a variety. And I mean, that's the thing with every brewery. It's all IPA, lager. It's like nothing really catches my eye at that point. I'm not going to spend money on beer I don't want to drink, so I'll go where there is beer that I do want.
Well, I think, and we'll notice it a little bit more when we have our guest on tonight, because I sent you some beers, and Wendy got some beers, and I got some beers from Final Gravity, and there weren't that many IPAs. Maybe it's a Arizona thing where a lot of these breweries are crushing IPAs, because I can't tell you the last time I went to a brewery where I could not at least fill a flight of 9 IPAs.
That would be nice, believe me, because that's all you can find out here no matter where you go.
What about, obviously I've been to a lot of different breweries promoting the Michigan Brewery Map app, which is free for everyone to use, mibeermap.com. But Wendy, I mean, you travel to a lot of breweries. Are you seeing a trend of lesser IPAs, or am I just getting lucky with wherever I go, whenever I go?
No, I'm definitely seeing that trend too. I think they're trying to do a much bigger variety. I think they realize that people are starting to get a little bit tired of the IPAs. They want to try something new. I've definitely seen a lot of sours. Sours are huge right now. Seems like everybody's getting in the sour game.
What are you seeing the sour game down there, Dan?
Yeah, that's the other one I'm seeing a lot of. And I'm glad Wendy brought that up, because if it isn't IPA, it's 15 different sours that they have on tap.
Well, that's going to kind of tie into the next topic that we want to bring up is when mentioning craft beer, obviously one of the biggest craft breweries in the state is Boston Beer Co. And Boston Beer Co. is also Dogfish Head. So one of the main players, the founder of Dogfish Head, Sam, I never remember how to pronounce his last name, and he talked about fruited sours and how fruited sours are reaching out to the liquor drinker and like the Pinot drinker to get people into craft beer, because these are beers that aren't beer flavored beers, we'll call them. What's that? That like a Lewis Black joke, the coffee flavored coffee? Or is that Dennis? I don't remember who the comedian was. It was some comedian. But a fruited sour isn't a beer flavored beer. It's something completely out of this world when it comes to flavors, and you can make so many different flavors. So I guess, Dan, you're talking about fruited sours being down there, but I want to talk with Wendy first. Do we think that the fruited sours in craft beer are going to be like hit it and quit it fast like the black IPA was, or do you think they're going to be here to stay like the New England?
No, I think they'll stay around. I don't know if they'll stay quite as long as the New England, but you're bringing a lot of people in that wouldn't normally drink beer with the fruited sour, so I think you'll see it open up a little bit to non-beer drinkers.
Well, what about you, Dan? I mean, obviously your wife is a beer drinker, or at least you make her drink beer.
No, she's like me. She likes stouts and barrel aged things.
Have you tried
Go ahead.
sours? Like, have you gone down and tried it?
I've tried a number of sours. I can't stand them. I mean, I don't think beer is supposed to taste like that. It shouldn't. It should taste like beer in some method, which at least IPAs at least try to do. But you do see a lot of people drinking them. I don't know why. It's just not my thing, but they do seem to bring people in like the IPAs do.
Yeah, I think it brings in a lot, as you mentioned, a lot of people who are looking for some type of beer that they can drink, and they've probably had 8 IPAs. Like in Michigan, how many times have people, like, you go to someone's house and they're drinking beer, and a lot of the times your choices are all day IPA or Two Hearted or Norms. You know, these IPAs are just kind of running over. And when you think craft beer, I think a lot of people think IPA in the first place. I think that's like their natural go-to in their mind. Wendy agrees with me. That makes me feel good about myself.
People think that because it's shoved down their throats so much. If there weren't 15 million of them being thrown around everywhere, it probably wouldn't be like that. I mean, back in the day, people thought like Sam Adams when they thought craft beer or something to that effect. I mean, then people started shoving IPAs down everyone's throat, and that's how it got to there.
I never thought of that, but you're 100% right on that. Is I would say also depending on where you are, because I would probably think Mass US, yes, but I think Yuengling definitely has its spot to where if you were in some of the Pennsylvania, Ohio, that area and territory, you might think Yuengling before you think Boston Beer Co. But yeah, the first thing I would think of back in the day, like if I thought of craft beer outside of Michigan, Cherry Wheat and Boston Lager, like those are the first two things in my head. I wouldn't even think of Dogfish Head, even though I knew Dogfish Head distributed, or Anchor. I'm trying to think of some other craft beer distribution from back then, but I feel I'm like in my head, like were they around back then or not?
The one I can think of, I don't even know if it was craft beer then. Newcastle was the other big one, especially late 90s, early 2000s that you saw everywhere.
Well, yeah, Newcastle was that import that I think everyone had where they didn't want the dark beer that was Guinness, and I use that very loosely because I don't know who can say Guinness is dark beer, but yeah,
it's so thick. I'm saying that with a lot of sarcasm.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I was definitely a little worried.
In case you didn't see me roll my eyes.
I don't see too many of those craft. Like I remember Flying Dog back then because of their crazy logos. And I really would have to look back at my beer fridge from 2008, 2009 that I had photos of. But if you look at it, it's 50% imports thanks to Annette May over at Merchants. And the other 50% is going to be a lot of Michigan beers. Michigan Brewing Co., Dark Horse, Liberty Street, like all these beers that were distributed back in the late aughts. Is what filled my fridge, but it was basically, I didn't care about non-Michigan beer. I cared about imports and Michigan beer, and that was it. And now here I am drinking a non-alcoholic beer and a hard seltzer. So nothing's changed.
I feel like there was less distribution back then too. So it was like where you were, whether it be Michigan or anywhere, that's the beer that was being distributed in your area more than anything. It really took time for a lot of these breweries to get to other states like they are now.
I think a lot of breweries had the option to go to distro earlier because I think people were looking for, if you had the ability, you were able to do it. But a lot of those breweries got too big too fast, and when competition came in, lost all of their market share. Michigan Brewing Co., one of them, Liberty Street, another one, Dark Horse, Jesus Christ, that's a huge one. And you could even say Roke, like Roke came in and couldn't keep up with their initial production because everybody else started opening after that. So I don't know what I don't know where I was going with that, but I can't even tell you what was in that fridge. I'm actually trying to bring up the photos from that, but if you guys could think,
come out, because that was one of the first ones that I remember being on the shelf.
You know what? Stone, probably Arrogant Bastard. We were probably drinking those West Coast IPAs too, and that's probably what started my hatred for IPAs. But yeah, well, you also had small time distribution in the state of Michigan, where a lot of breweries, like your not Black Lotus, Kunin was distroing, Dragon Mead was distro. Like all these breweries were distributing to the local stores that it was easy to get. So maybe that's a thing to think about too, when it comes to that. But again, yeah, I was definitely as a craft beer lover, I was still huge into imports because it just felt like it was the only thing you couldn't get, unless it was Fat Tire. But I'm looking. I finally figured out. I found a photo of at least one of my refrigerators, filled, and all you could see is Fat Tire and Three Floyds.
Makes sense.
I was at the bar one night when Fat Tire first came out. And my friend, who is not a craft beer person, kept going and ordering me flat tires. The entire night, she ordered flat tires for me.
Oh, that's too funny. No, I probably called it Flat Tire before, but yeah, you couldn't get Fat Tire here in Michigan. But I think that also goes back to the conversations we've had before. When a beer comes into distribution, it's hot for a second and then it's gone. We just don't care about it anymore.
Yep, because you can get it wherever you want, anytime you want.
Yeah, it's not as special as it used to be. I can't tell you the last time. Like, we had Toppling Goliath on, and that beer was amazing, but I'm like, I've seen it on the shelves, and I just haven't done anything about it anymore because I just didn't care to anymore.
I still would. But I think it's the same with Michigan beers, though, that when you have to go and get them, or they've created a buzz for them, like no rules, you can only get it once a year at the brewery. People are still lining up for it, but once it gets to the point where they're making it year round, people are just not buying it like they were.
You don't have to say KBS out loud. Jeez.
I was trying to be nice. I was actually thinking CBS, but
because
KBS,
CBS
did the same thing way before CBS did.
Backwoods Bastard. Remember when that was a huge, everyone was looking for that, and then you could get it year round. You're like, oh, well, why do we care? Because at that point I stopped caring about it. I didn't want it anymore. As I lost there it is, the little prep that we had. Talking about something a little more fun, and this is something that I know a lot of people have been talking about, which is crypto. Cryptocurrency is starting to launch into craft beer. So while it's not an actual coin, this is going to be an NFT. And think of it almost like those gift cards that celebrities get for like unlimited Chipotle or unlimited McDonald's or Subway. Denver
That's
beer.
a thing?
There is, I saw one of those like paperclip to car trade people. And at one point they had unlimited Chipotle, like this black card that only like 3 or 4 people have. And that card gets you one burrito for free every day forever.
Oh.
So the Denver Beer Company is auctioning off, so it is a Beer for Life NFT, which stands for non-fungible token. This means that it is something that cannot be copied or recreated. It's a one-of-a-kind piece of art, and this will allow you to get 4 beers per day forever. And not for the rest of your life, this is forever. So right now the current bid is roughly $1,900 or about $385 pints. The Denver Beer Company says that it's worth roughly $664,000 or 95,000 beers. The NFT will never expire and can be sold. Therefore, if you are ending your beer drinking days, you can then turn it around and sell it, and it's going to continue selling. So you're basically investing in your alcohol in hopes that you can drink and then sell it for a profit later. Given the opportunity at a local brewery for you guys, would one of you take advantage of it? And how much would you spend to get 4 beers per day, every day for the rest of your life at this place? There's a lot of math probably going on in your head.
No, I know why I wouldn't. Simply because I don't go out and drink enough beer to where it would actually be worth it, especially if you're going to have people probably bidding up the amount that you would have to spend.
Yeah, so right now it's $1,900. It's got another week and a half to go on the market. You cannot buy it with real dollars. You have to buy it with wrapped Ethereum. So you have to put money into crypto to purchase it in the first place. Wendy, I mean, Dan doesn't drink enough. I'm guessing you would probably spend $5,000 for all you can drink Final Absolution.
Yeah, I probably would do that. I was that's what was going on in my head is I'm like, which brewery do I go to most that I would want to? Nick, we're apparently going to have a conversation. I don't know. I don't know which one I would pick, to be honest. I would definitely, 4 Final Absolutions a day, though, I would have to quit my job because I wouldn't be able to work anymore.
Well, you don't have to drink 4 per day or have to drink all 4 on the day. So,
when you go on a cruise, you get the drink package, right? And we figured out how much, based on what you pay for the drink package, how many drinks you have to have a day in order to break even.
Ooh, I need to hear this number because I've only been on one cruise.
I'm curious too.
I was on one cruise 20 years ago, and so I wasn't of age to drink. I was getting the pop. I had the all-you-can-drink pop ticket.
Hell yeah.
But then they didn't tell me that if I wanted a Shirley Temple, because again, I'm 14, they cost money. So you have to pay for the full Shirley Temple, not just the little splash of grenadine. So yeah.
Your parents got a bill.
They did. But how many drinks to break even?
It was 11 on Carnival, and I think it was 12 on Royal Caribbean.
Is that a day?
A day.
Holy crap.
And at first I was like, you can't do it. But you can if you start drinking at breakfast.
Well, I could see maybe doing 4 in the morning, like, mimosas, breakfast, and then you do your day excursion or whatever, and then at night it's how you cure your hangover in the morning too, so you just start drinking again. I mean, I don't know if I could keep up with 7 days of drinking.
Vicious cycle right there. Holy crap.
But in the same sense, I also think that I could probably match it up where if I'm going hard every other day and, just a few drinks in between. Now, on those drink passes, is it just everything or?
No, there's a bunch of different stuff. I was drinking bottled beer when I was on Princess when we went to Alaska. There was a beer bar on one of an English pub on one of the Royal Caribbean cruises I was on. That was absolutely my favorite pub ever. I'm still friends with all of those bartenders on Facebook. But I actually drank them out of Le Fin du Monde. By the time we hit the first port, which was the second day of the cruise, they had to order more Le Fin du Monde because I was just drinking them. I'm probably one of the few people who will go on a Caribbean cruise and not get a tan because they had an English pub on the boat. Well, and I went to relax and drink beer and read my book, so I didn't need to be in the sun.
What if it was like a English mile, Dan? Like a hand pull English mile? Do you think you could do 11 a day?
Oh, yeah, probably, but should you? I mean, that sounds like how you end up on Locked Up Abroad. Is how that sounds like that turns out when you start doing things like that.
What's Locked Up Abroad?
It's a show about people getting in prison abroad for whatever reason. Usually drugs, but
Okay.
it sounds like how it
What
starts.
are you in here for? Trafficking drugs? What about you? All you can drink on the Caribbean cruise ship.
But on a cruise, like, people think that they're going to be sleeping a lot more than they actually do, because you get up early, you get up to see the sunrise, and then you stay up to see the sunset. You take a nap a couple times during the day. So, I mean, you're up for a long time. It's not a quick thing, really. I have had friends, though, that had to be brought back onto the boat in a wheelchair for going to those all-you-can-drink resorts in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, more than one, which is a little scary. But those are the things I would be more scared about, because you're paying $60 to go and drink all you can drink in like 5 or 6 hours. Those are the people that scare me. 12 hours or 12 beers over 12 days or 12 hours is not that bad.
No, I don't know if I'd be able to properly pace myself, though. I think that's the problem.
Well, that's what naps are for.
You're
true. On vacation.
I've never had, like, sans a all you can drink like a wedding. Like, I've never really been in a place with an open bar, except for we used to go when I would do traveling with friends, or I was hosting bachelor parties for a lot of different friends. We would always stop at the Embassy Suites, because they would have the 2-hour all you can drink managers seminar thing. And the damage you could do in those 2 hours is pretty good. But I always thought about how much it would cost to do those all expense paid, like, sandals vacations over in Mexico or wherever, where you're at like a beach resort. But I've also seen like photos of what happens at those resorts and what happens on cruises, and I'm like, that looks not fun at all. Dan, have you ever done anything like that? I know you've traveled a lot of countries, but
usually I end up in much sketchier areas. I've never been to an all-inclusive resort. I'm in the places where in Mexico where like the federal cops are coming in with machine guns and shit like that. That's usually the kind of place I'm involved with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from the machine guns.
Yeah, me too. Not a fan of them. Just not my thing. As we continue talking, I'm drinking my little White Claw right here. We were talking about market share, and Rockstar, the energy drink, has filed, they're part of PepsiCo, filed a trademark for Rockstar under the beer as well as the FMB hard seltzer categories for trademarks. This isn't the first energy drink to go into the business. Bang rolled out with Mix Hard Seltzer, and Coca-Cola got in the game with Topo Chico, and Arizona Iced Tea teamed up with Heineken to launch Sunrise Hard Seltzer. So I guess my question to you guys is there enough space for these larger drink organizations to cash into the FMB seltzer world? Dan.
Sure. Sorry. No, I was just rereading some of the info. I'm like, are they really trying to do this? I mean, is this going to be like an energy drink seltzer or?
Well, let's take what happened with energy drinks over the last decade and kind of mirror it with what's going on with seltzer right now. You go. Do you have Speedway down there? What's your gas station of choice? Like the one with the big grocery store inside.
Oh, we got a couple. We got QT is the big one out here.
Okay. So you go to a QT, you open, and you see the giant wall of 80 different Monster flavors. And then you go and you see the Rockstar, Rockstar too, and Red Bull, and Red Bull's got, low carb, sugar free, and then all their flavors, they're blue and they're orange. We're seeing that with the hard seltzer, where everyone's just making 1,000 different flavors just to add SKUs to where you're almost competing with yourself. You're trying to get someone to buy something new because it's a new flavor. And I think people are doing that with seltzers, but is there even more room? I mean, they have the distro. Is there room for them to compete against the major brands of White Claw, Truly, or, because they're going to have they're going to need to sell a lot of it because they're going to try to sell or make a lot of it.
It's true. We're in the phase where everyone's trying to come out with their own and trying to be the best. And we're going to reach a point where it's going to have to pare itself down. That's usually what happens. So, I mean, they're big enough. If they can come up with a good flavor and good distribution because of what they have already, then yeah, they could succeed. It really just depends on how it shakes out as far as what everyone likes is the best ones that get bought the most.
Not so, sorry, I'm reading the chat. So if you're listening to us live, 7 p.m. Fridays, gluten-free beer Brian said 20 years ago at City Club, and then he says not all you can drink, but a large pitcher of Long Island.
$5.
Yeah, I was I at City Club back then? No, I was
Probably not 20 years ago.
No, 17 years ago I was.
Yeah, that's true.
I was there, Brian. I remember.
I was gonna say, I think all three of us are City Club veterans here.
I was there 20 years ago.
I spent a good amount of time there when I was 18 to probably 24, 25. Randomly getting a text message from Dan like going to City Club at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Well, because if you showed up before midnight back then,
it was free to get in.
It was just weird. True, it was free to get in, but you were also weird.
Yeah, but now they have the last time we went, which was just last year, early last year, obviously pre-COVID. They had
like days before.
Yeah, they had a DJ in the front by the door that was spinning different music than the dance floor. And the DJ in the front was playing a lot more older music, which is probably why I was hanging out there, because I was with Dan and our friend Brian, not to be confused with gluten-free Brian, who's in the Facebook chat. Yeah, I don't even think any, trying to think of bars or restaurants or anything like that, like all you could drink, I just can't do it. I just wouldn't trust myself. But back to hard seltzer by Pepsi. I mean, they got the distribution, but can they draw in the crowd? Like, what kind of flavors would you look for? Because we're already getting into the craziness.
It's obscure.
Obscure flavors plus adding, like fruited smoothies, like your Smooge or
the lemonades too. What everyone's doing, it seems.
Wendy?
I don't know that I could even pick a flavor because I really wouldn't drink them.
What if it was like a hopped seltzer?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to get into the seltzers just because they're better for me sometimes. Maybe a pina colada or rum runner, that type of thing.
They're actually not that bad.
Well, there's a handful of seltzer companies.
There's some that are really good.
That are making like cocktail seltzers. So along with like the Moscow Mule, you have an Odd Side, or you have different flavors from Shorts Beaches. I'll tell you. Go on, Dan.
What more companies need to do is just make an unflavored one. If they made one that was just a normal seltzer water flavor instead of having to add all these, because some of them are getting obscure. Like some of the things they're putting together are getting a little.
I've only seen, I think, White Claw do that.
Yeah, there's only been a couple that I've ever seen out there. I wish more companies would do that, because not everyone wants to buy not everyone wants to buy a variety pack, which seems like they all try to push more than anything. Mm-hmm. Like, give me one flavor, like the one I'm looking for. And the other is, if they put out the non-flavored ones, I think you'd see an even bigger buy of those instead of me having to buy like cranberry, apple, pear, ones that are never going to get drank at any time.
Well, then why would you buy it?
Well, because they come in the variety pack and everyone mixes all these flavors together.
I hear what you're saying.
They always put the ones that people aren't buying in the variety pack, and then you're like, oh, I don't want that.
Well, you put it in with black cherry. Like black cherry is usually in them, or some type of lime or a lemon lime.
Yeah, I don't want those. I was looking at the High Noons that they've been promoting. It just came out with the vodka.
Yeah, I don't think those aren't seltzers. Those are pre-made mixed cocktails, like.
Right. So I was looking at those, and I thought about getting a variety pack, but it was like lemon lime and cherry and something else, and I'm like, I want to try the watermelon. Put that one in a mix pack for me, and maybe I'll drink one of those other ones.
Tito in the chat saying the Dragon's Milk Seltzer had an original flavor and is good. I think, Wendy, you're the only one that's had the seltzer.
I had the cherry one. I think I would try the other one before I came to a conclusion about it. But I'm not a big cherry fan, so maybe black cherry. I'm just not a fan of that flavoring. So I think that, but it was an interesting flavor. You had a kind of a little bourbon flavor to it. So, but it was okay in my opinion.
Well, we're also seeing when it comes to seltzers and different flavors, but we're also seeing like higher ABV seltzers coming out. Like Surge, I think, is the White Claw version, not to be confused with the green drink from the 90s.
It's not the same thing.
It is not the same thing. I was highly disappointed. I think Bud Light Seltzer has you know how they have the Bud Light Platinum? I think they have the Platinum series, which is a higher ABV seltzer. So we're now are we seeing seltzers, but we're seeing Imperial seltzers come out for people to get even quicker drunk.
Yeah, that's the next step. When are the barrel-aged seltzers hit?
Well, we had Dragon's Milk.
Was it barrel-aged?
Yeah, those Dragons.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
I think they're called Dragon Shares. Are barrel-aged seltzers. I don't know any other people.
Even my mom liked it. It had a real light bourbon flavor, but it wasn't like overpowering.
And I think Tito was saying, like, there's just a straight flavor, no flavorings, I should say, that came out of that, so you could try that. But these barrel-aged, Dan, are only 4.6% ABV, and I think, like, this is 5%.
Yeah, there are much stronger seltzers than that for I don't know what except getting drunk real fast while drinking seltzer.
Let's look back and go back into the world of when there were flavored FMBs that people were going after, like Four Locos. Like Four Locos was a huge trend, and those things were what 12%, 14%.
Oh yeah, something ridiculous.
And the price point was what, a 16 ounce or a 24 ounce can for $2.50?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were pretty cheap.
So you're partying with the people. I think just people are looking for, honest to God, and I think we've talked about this before. People are looking for alcohol by dollar.
That's true.
And when they're looking to get drunk and they're looking to get drunk fast, they look at those things and they look at, not many people are drinking 40s because it's cheap. They're drinking 40s because they can get drunk fast.
Yeah, I always questioned, especially back in the day when you could buy a 24-ounce can of Milwaukee's Best for a lower cost than you could buy a bottle of water. It didn't really make sense, but I think it's targeting those people exactly.
I mean, both will quench your thirst.
They will. One of them mixes good with KBS too.
But let's also look at the as we've grown as drinkers and how much we'll spend more money on better alcohol than we were before. I mean, if you would have asked even 5 years ago, Ken just started Better on Draft, and you would have said, would you have paid $50 for a 1.5 ounce pour of a whiskey? I would have laughed at you. You'd be like, the fuck you talking about? $50? I could buy a 2/5 for that much and get hammered. And then I drank a Hibiki 17, and I'm like, oh, well, I get it now.
Yeah, I agree. We all have, especially over the years we've been doing this, have evolved immensely. Like, I was bringing 40s to the old episodes, and now I don't know the last time I've had one of those.
Oh, no. All my shares in King Cobra have gone down the drain.
They have. I know. I stopped spending money on them.
I don't even know who makes this. King Cobra's Budweiser, isn't it?
I thought so. Yeah, I think it's Anheuser-Busch.
I searched King Cobra, and of course I forget that it's a snake and not a drink. There we go. King Cobra, Anheuser-Busch. Yep. It's got a 51% on Beer Advocate.
That's pretty good.
That's it says score 51 awful. It's ranked at number 99 in the malt liquor category.
What? These people don't know what they're talking about.
I'm trying to see what a massive. It doesn't look like there's any. Like the first 50 are literally nobody is. One of them. So you know what ranks higher, Dan?
What's that?
Just for you, I saw this one. Steel Reserve Spiked Blue Raz.
Oh, who drinks that? Oh my God.
Same with Tangerine and Strawberry Burst.
Oh, I forgot they made those stupid flavored.
What was that?
It's the same people that drank Mad Dog 2020. That stuff was horrible.
Yeah, Mad Dog, I think it's still a step above malt liquor, especially Steel Reserve. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan. These people like Steel Reserve a lot more. Natty Daddy Lemonade rates higher.
Wow. Natty Daddy Lemonade.
I'm going to have to actually look, because a lot of the ratings and stuff, there's only a handful of ratings for these beers. And like Rochester Mills Old St. Mix is on there with a 4.17.
Nice.
Colt 444 Sun King. Yeah, there's not much else on this on the Beer Advocate website. Apparently Oddside made a malt liquor though, Dan.
Oh boy.
How did you never see this?
That's a good question, actually.
I'm pretty sure Marquette Black Rocks did.
So we have one more.
All of a sudden, it got really quiet.
Yeah, I had a sneeze and nobody took over.
Sorry.
I was trying to figure out what you were doing.
We have one more news article before we do King of the Hill, and then take a little bit of a break before we do our interview with Final Gravity.
Final Gravity.
Wendy, take it over. This was your article.
Oh, it is, and I have to pull it up actually because I couldn't get the link into our document. So the Queen has a beer, and I don't know how we missed this because it was released like a month ago. She's put her name on a beer that they're going to make from ingredients from one of her estates, and they're going to sell it there. So I was kind of excited about that because, who wouldn't want to drink the Queen's beer, I guess. What do you guys think about that? Would you go and have a beer there?
Are we really believing she's behind making this beer in any way, shape, or form? Does she even know what they're talking about?
I'm sure
apparently she is prone to a cocktail or two, they say. That's what I read in one of the articles, because I found like 4 or 5 articles. Once I started looking at it, I'm like, what?
So they're going to have a English bitter, a golden IPA. Looks like those are the two that you're going to be able to get from them with her name on it. Now, while I don't think that she knows what her name's really being on, obviously...
she knows. She's signing off on it. She's just not helping brew it.
Yeah, well, that's true. But, obviously the estate, the people that help run the monarchy over there are the ones that are thinking this is the best idea.
I've seen The Crown. I know she goes through a list with people every day. That was...
I have not seen The Crown, so I'm not familiar with them.
She's got a list of stuff that she goes through every day about what's going on. So they had to bring it by her. They passed it by. At least that's what the TV tells me. So it's got to be true.
Is that like with what happens with the Ford family and the Lions? Like, things get passed by through them, but they don't really say much. It's probably the Illiches more than anything. I don't know anything
about that.
Sports ball. Sports ball.
If it's not a soccer ball, I don't know what you're talking about.
It is not. You kick this ball, hence the name football. But most of the time you use your hands. So that's going to do it. The Better on Draft news for 625, a lot longer than a normal news segment. But that is because we are recording backwards today. So we're going to do King of the Hill next. Then we're going to take a little break. And then we're going to bring in our guests from Final Gravity over in Decatur, Kalamazoo, those two cities. I actually went to Decatur on Saturday. The brewery is next to an old gentleman's club, so apparently there used to be a gentleman's club brewery in the same building. Not like under the same rooms, sanitation, but there's like
there was a connecting door.
I parked right next to the door for the brewery, and I walked up, and it just says "Bam, Gentlemen's Club," and I'm like, oh, well, but it's closed, so sadly, I was unable to attend. But that's gonna do it. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Peace.
Thank you, Wendy.